In a globalized economy, international economic institutions play an increasingly important role in the evolution of the political economy at a global stage. They are key in structuring of trade and financial relationships, what give them the tools to influence the international distribution of wealth. In this video, the main international economic institutions will be presented, as well as the evolution they all have undergone, and the controversies this evolution has arisen. The origins of the institution of global economic governance can be found in the 1944 Bretton Woods Conference, which gathered delegates from 44 different nations to agree upon a series of new rules for the post-Second World War international monetary system. The liberal nature of the new international economic order had as the main goal the prevention of protectionism, which was considered to have led to the global economic collapse of the 30s, and indirectly to the Second World War. However, disagreement arose between delegations regarding the means through which this goal could be achieved. On one side, the British delegation, represented by John Maynard Keynes, advocated for a redistributive system based on liberalism, but also on counter-cyclical state interventionism, which could play a major role in the development and balanced global expansion. On the other side, the American delegation, represented by Henry Dexter White, advocated for a liberal system based on the dollar and less powerful global governance institutions, with smaller funds, to ensure US economic leadership of the world. This last view was the one finally prevailing, and US hegemony was imposed both by consensus through financial assistance and autonomy to national economies that fully accepted liberalism through the Marshall Plan, and coercion in the case of the military containment of communism. The new international monetary system, born in Bretton Woods, was based on three main pillars. The first pillar was currency stability, achieved through the control of speculation and the dollar exchange standard, which made of the dollar a reserve value, thanks to dollar-gold parity. Then, all the currencies were pegged to the dollar, which provided the stability that ensured the expansion of international trade. The implementation of the US dollar standard was followed by 30 years of economic prosperity, known as the 30 Glorious. The second pillar was the creation of credit and financing international institutions, such as the International Monetary Fund (IMF) or the World Bank. The IMF was originally conceived to assist in the short term those countries who asked for aid to correct maladjustments in the balance of payments, without resorting to measures destructive of prosperity. The World Bank creation harbored some of the Keynesian aspirations, so it was designed to provide assistance to the reconstruction of Europe and Japan after the war, but also to help developing former colonies. The third pillar was the promotion of free international trade and investment, first through the 1948 General Agreement of Tariffs and Trade, and later on, in 1995, through the World Trade Organization, which has been considered a tool of developed economies to maintain their privileged position in front of the developing ones. Then, the first dissidents of the system were precisely third world countries, who did not feel included in the decision-making processes of its main institutions. So they created their own developmental agenda within the UN system to defend their interests, advocating for 1. Trade protection measures. Second, commodity price stabilization. Third, removal of unequal exchange, by having the ability to freely sell those products in which they have comparative advantage and manufactured products in developed world markets. Fourth, financial aid to compensate for decades of unequal exchange. Nevertheless, this project was undermined by the 1980s debt crisis, which made many of those countries dependent of IMF loans, which since the 1970s supposed the acceptance of certain conditions. In 1971, the weakening of the US economic position led to the dollar devaluation by 10%, which caused the US dollar exchange standard to collapse. In fact, in 1973, the dollar-gold convertibility was suspended. Then, Bretton Woods' international monetary system had ended. The IMF rules in maintaining fixed exchange rates had no sense anymore. Inspired by neoliberal ideas, the institution redirected their functions into structural adjustment programs, with the aim to remove all the obstacles to free market, which was considered a source of development and economic prosperity in itself. This neoliberal shift has been very controversial, especially given the long-term consequences of the conditions imposed by the IMF to those countries that needed a loan. These consequences are exposed in the following table. The reduction in government spending had the goal to reduce inflation and demand for imports. However, the real negative consequences was the undermining of national development programs. Liberalization should have provided access to foreign technology. However, it brought national bankruptcies and the market takeover by foreign multinational corporations. Privatization had the goal to lead to efficient resource allocation, market-based. However, it brought inequality and social injustice. Devaluation wanted to ensure more competitiveness in exports, but it also caused the increase of imports price, inflation, and a balance of payment deficit. Specialization on primary and cash crop production had the aim to increase dollar earning. However, it also provoked dependency on imports of high added value from developed markets and unequal exchange, which did not promote development. The latest developments of these institutions has been defined by the spread of neoliberalism caused by the 2007 financial crisis, which has obliged them to rethink some of their statutes in order to keep their legitimacy and ability to play a global role. These reforms have materialized in a shift towards multilateralism and the softening of pro-market measures. Moreover, it is important to highlight the eruption of new global governance institutions such as the G8 or the G20, as the international economic environment is becoming increasingly institutionalized and at the same time complex and fragmented.